So, wanted to make a few points, however that is. Uh, just a brief discussion. Here it is, the brief discussion about geopolicy and climate change. So, and there's to keep it simple. I'll play on the idea that there's two major forces at work. That is integrated energy that still includes oil and gas, and the energy transition movement. So, in all of this, I haven't found in my own time the connectivity that would be considered reasonable or cogent for a self-conscious movement towards transition. And that's because there's communication gaps, there's scale and scheduling difficulties. Really, what this comes down to is the uh, uh, polarity or interplay or um, tensile repartee, or however it is that we come to discover each other, the two major interest groups. And so, for an unself-conscious movement like transition, uh, which doesn't have, there's no overarching, there's the sustainable development goals. However, there's no overarching system that is all encompassing and aware of each impetus to arrive at energy transition. Say in the next 5 years, much of the rhetoric is for net zero by 2050. So, as we create tension by making change, there's resistance. And in that resistance, there's thresholds and triggers. So someone who perceives their world falling apart attempts to justify their own volition by engaging in power dynamics. So we're the environmental movement or the transition movement isn't very good sometimes. This is a mild critique. Don't guard thy soul. Isn't very good at taking responsibility for the geopolitical reaction to something like energy transition. Now, and what that is, I'm not going to express, there's all kinds of theories about who's doing what when, and how that relates to jus ad bellum, or how that relates to uh, conflict resolution or remediation of dispute issues. So this is how it's done. People come to the table. And the issue of all avenues are exhausted, rarely happens that we've exhausted all avenues of diplomacy. It's the tone that we set for a perceived success. So, how do we take responsibility nationally or internationally how do we take responsibility, and where is the structure uh, for a truly responsible energy transition that takes responsibility for some of this geopolitical flack. So, uh, media blockage through the Department of Defense, or gag orders, or cease and desist orders, or whatever it may be. Uh, we can't do anything to embarrass our government, and the highest, one of the higher conceptual frameworks for um, assertiveness is national interest. So it's kind of lofty, national interest, and how do we make sure that we don't step on any toes? But so and then there's connectivity, right? Integration, or NATO expansion, or uh, Eastern Bloc, or North Korea, or however it is that media throughput pays attention to certain problems and problem entitlement or problem solution scenarios, and how do we address the issue that um, occurs whereby uh, certain people are preoccupied with something other than climate change because it ingratiates normalcy, bygone normalcy. Some food for thought. Uh, I don't want to do all of that myself. So that's why there's this message to the world, please, if you're going to have an energy transition, be responsible for the tension you create. And now that doesn't put the onus on transition from the fulcrum of human survival or constitutional fidelity. We all want to live, is the object of the game. But unfortunately, when it comes to people and game theory, there's a lot of lofty uh, preoccupation with uh, 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 supple concepts that engage. Sometimes, if we are at a loss for scale and value, we start to engage in fantasy. So fantasy becoming reality is a hopeful place for human unity. All right, that's it for me. Uh, Here goes with the end of the video. Have a wonderful new year, and cheer up.